Welcome to Elected. I'm your host, Luke Radel. Today, Congressman John Katko made the surprising announcement that he won't be running for re-election to his fifth term in Congress. He becomes the third Republican to announce he's not running again after voting to impeach President Donald Trump for his role in inciting the January 6th attack on the Capitol. This is how Congressman Katko explained that vote almost exactly a year ago.
Now, just as the Capitol Police protected us, Congress must match that courage and protect the Constitution, our democratic processes, and this nation. The President's role in this insurrection is undeniable, both on social media ahead of January 6th and in his speech that day. He deliberately promoted baseless theories, creating a combustible environment of misinformation and division. To allow the President of the United States to incite this attack without consequences is a direct threat to the future of this democracy.
Now you might be asking yourself, for good reason, who is John Katko and why does he look like a stock photo of a politician? And as for the second question, I can't really answer that, but I do agree with you. But on the first question, John Katko is a Republican congressman who's been representing the Syracuse area for the past 8 years in the House of Representatives. I like to think of John Katko in this way. John Katko is to Republicans and the Syracuse area what Anthony Brindisi was to Democrats and the Utica area. See, John Katko was a moderate, pragmatic Republican who ran in a lean Democratic district against some far, far left liberal candidates. Whereas Anthony Brindisi was successful one time running as a moderate, pragmatic Democrat in a lean Republican district against a far, far right conservative Republican. But John Katko announcing that he's not going to run again is important to us here in NY22 for two reasons. One, he is in our neighboring political district, and it's never a good sign when the neighbors decide to move out because crazy Aunt Claudia is out on the lawn yelling about conspiracy theories again. But two, it's actually going to be a lot more important in this upcoming election who is running against Claudia Tenney. And to explain why, I'm gonna have to talk about redistricting. And I know that word and the concept all sound very boring and very technical, and they kind of are. But here's what I have to promise you, okay? Let's make a deal. At the end of my explanation of redistricting and how it's going to impact Katko and Tenney and our district here in Oneida County, I will have a cute puppy for you guys, okay? Cute puppy if you stay through and make it through all the redistricting explanation. Don't fast forward ahead. The puppy is your reward for eating your vegetables, okay? All right. Redistricting is the process of altering the political maps based on population and regional shifts. It happens every 10 years and coincides with the taking of a nationwide census. Here in New York, the census showed that our population has declined over the course of the last decade, meaning that we lose one of the 27 congressional districts we currently have. Now, since Democrats in the state legislature are likely going to be in control of the redistricting process, Central New York has become prime real estate for them to create districts that keep Republicans out of office. This politicization of the redistricting process is a phenomenon known as gerrymandering. And if you've heard that term before and heard it pronounced the way that I just said it, you've actually heard it pronounced wrong, because it's named after former Vice President Eldridge Gerry, who was one of the first to use redistricting in this political fashion. So it's actually gerrymandering, but almost no one says it like that, so I'm not going to either.
I said, everyone, and I mean everyone, says gerrymandered. She said everyone is wrong.
So now the question is, how would the Democrats' gerrymandering of New York State's congressional districts discourage Katko from wanting to run for re-election in 2022? And the answer lies in the latest maps that we've seen from the Democrats on the Redistricting Commission. We are very likely now to see a 22nd congressional district that includes the Utica area, the Syracuse area, and the Ithaca area, all in one district, which would lean heavily Democrat given the college towns of Cornell, Syracuse University, and Hamilton all being in the same district. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, Canco already fared pretty well in a district that leaned toward Biden, so why couldn't he pull it off again in 2022? And the answer actually lies a lot more in the primary election that he would have to face against incumbent Congresswoman Claudia Tenney from the Utica area, who has allied herself much more closely with President Trump and who even received an endorsement from President Trump already at his Bedminster Golf Club.
I'm with Claudia. She's a fantastic woman, great conservative, loved in her district and loved in New York, and support her all the way. I've endorsed her, and I'm proud of that endorsement. She's tough, she's smart, and she's a good person. So endorse her and be with her and love her because she's very special. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So yeah, there are too many funny things to point out in this endorsement video. But I do have to say the most unfortunate one is the fact that the president is wearing a white polo shirt, which very clearly displays all of the stains from his bronzer. Yikes. Now, while today's announcement from Canco took me by surprise, it really shouldn't have, because Utica College poli-sci professor Luke Perry actually warned me that Canco might not run against Tenney in a primary back in November on my Election Eve show. If Utica and Syracuse are in the same district, we could see a potential Republican primary between incumbent Congressman John Katko and incumbent Claudia Tenney. How would you think that would play out, and what are the dynamics there of that primary?
Well, that would be fascinating. I think certainly Representatives Katko and Tenney are the target of Democrats in the redistricting process. So you combine them both in the same district and have the primary battled, and you've already eliminated one. I would be interested to see if Representative Katko would even get into that fight, because if that were the dynamic, you would have a competitive Republican primary to go compete in a heavily Democratic district where you're probably going to lose. So Katko's been at it a while. He's weathered different presidencies and been a successful candidate, but I don't know if he wants to take on Claudia Tenney in a primary to then go on and be an underdog in a heavily Democratic district. So it'll be very interesting to see how that sorts out.
So now I guess we'll never know what a Canco-Tenney primary might have looked like in 2022, with Canco having condemned former President Trump for his role in the January 6th riot, while Claudia Tenney deliberately went in the opposite direction, saying that President Trump wasn't responsible for the January 6th attack. Instead, it was people's distrust in the electoral process, even though the people's distrust in the electoral process was based on statements from President Trump.
We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side.
Now, to illustrate what a primary between Congresswoman Claudia Tenney and Congressman John Katko might have looked like, I'd like to introduce our special guest, as promised, my cute dog, Buttons. Buttons, come on out here. Hi, Buttons. Thank you so much for being here, Buttons. I really appreciate it. She's a little camera shy, as you can tell. This is her first time on the show. Yes, are you excited? I think she smells what I have in my pocket. Now, Buttons is going to play the role of Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, okay, who we here at Elected News are a super huge fan of and have no problems with. But to play her opponent, Congressman John Katko, I have brought along with me, let's see here, this, Buttons. It's a milk bone. Very exciting. I mean, actually, probably not, right? It looks a little bland, looks a little boring. Now, Claudia, here's the deal, okay? John Katko, hey, sit. John Katko has been serving in Congress for 8 years, okay? He was a former federal prosecutor, a pragmatic Republican who might have a shot at winning this district, and she just bit his head off, okay? That is unfortunate. That is not good. So yeah, I think that pretty well describes what a potential primary might have been like between them, which explains why John Katko is probably not running again. So, thank you for watching. Buttons, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And tune in next time.